Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Islamic podcast. So recently I saw a debate or slash discussion between brother Abdullah Al Andalusi and Douglas Murry. And the debate topic or discussion topic was regarding Salman Rushdie and what happened with Salman Rushdie. So in case you guys don't know, recently Salman Rushdie was stabbed. So let's take a look and see what brother Abdullah Al Andalusi and Douglas Murry said during this discussion slash debate.
Quite a strong rhetoric from Douglas Murry. I'm always aware that Muslim extremists do not in any way speak for the majority of Muslims. But to be fair, the Iranian government over the weekend said Rushdie was to blame for being attacked. That is completely and utterly despicable, isn't
it? Look at the way this guy frames the question. This is such a loaded question. And this is the thing, like, a lot of people, I saw a lot of Muslim commentators making this stupid comment that, why didn't he just answer the question? Like, there's a reason why he didn't answer the question. It's because he's an apologist or he's a duat who's been doing apologetics for a very long period of time. He knows how arguments work. And he knows very well this is a loaded question. This is a trap. And if you can't see that, maybe you shouldn't be talking about this topic, right? But anyway, those stuff aside. So yeah, this is a clear-cut loaded question. So in case you guys don't know, a loaded question is a type of question that has a built-in assumption that is not justified. Like, for example, if I ask you the question, how many times do you beat your wife? Is that a valid question? No, because I already assume that you beat your wife. Like, where's the evidence for that? Where's the justification for that? Same way, when the interviewer is asking Brother Abdullah the question that, isn't it despicable that the Iranian regime is saying that it's Rushdie's fault that he got stabbed. So the assumption here is that anytime someone says that the victim is guilty for being punished, is wrong. But what makes him think that?
Basically, the interviewer was trying to force Brother Abdullah to accept the assumption or premise that someone who is attacked is always innocent, and if someone dares say otherwise, that person is wrong. He is then trying to argue if it's despicable or not, without ever logically justifying why victims are always innocent and why saying otherwise is wrong. So if Brother Abdullah answers by saying yes, it is despicable, then he has already accepted the assumption that victim of an attack is always innocent and saying otherwise is wrong. If he says no, it is not despicable, then he has still accepted the premise or assumption that victim of an attack is always innocent and saying otherwise is wrong. He is just simply disagreeing with if it's despicable or not. In loaded questions, people often accept these type of premises without realizing that they don't agree with it. So by the end, they have fallen in the trap without realizing and are manipulated to accept a position they may disagree with.
So yeah, this is completely disingenuous from the interviewer's part to ask this type of question. And a lot of Islamophobes ask this question. So if you're a Muslim, you have to be careful and not to answer this type of question or call out that this is a loaded question and I'm not going to answer a loaded question until you justify a premise. But regardless, let's continue.
Well, firstly, I find it rather strange that Douglas Murry, who's had a history of advocating for restrictions on Muslim speakers at universities,
But you can answer my question. Do you think it's
but
despicable that the Iranian government have said that he took it on himself? He was stabbed in broad daylight. Do you find that despicable?
But if I may, he deigns to say he's a champion for free speech, so to speak, but yet his organization argued for restrictions for platforms for Muslim speakers going to universities. He wanted to ban the burqa in public buildings and a kind of social ban on it in public. So for him and argued that Muslim.
Hold on.
Look at this white bag of potato chips. You can just answer the question. Like, doesn't it look like a bunch of potato chips? But I'm not saying he looks like a potato chips in terms of how he looks. I'm saying he looks like a potato chip in the sense that he is behaving like a potato chip, right? I mean, what's the job of a potato chip? A job of a potato chip is so that people eat them, right? And he's basically that. Like, his whole career is to please the right-wing conservatives, okay? That's all he does. He has no thought of his own.
To answer that, you'll have noticed, and all of your viewers will have noticed, that this Islamist lunatic in your studio can't answer the basic question. Let's try it again and make it simple for you. Why don't you say whether or not you are completely condemning of any violence against Salman Rushdie or anyone else who is deemed to have said something heretical? Why don't we start with the basics for you?
Look at this potato chips trying so hard to please his audience. But anyway, so basically, again, he asked another loaded question. This is actually a different question this time. Here, he says that, why don't you say that you condemn anytime someone gets attacked for blaspheming against Islam? Why don't you condemn that, right? He's basically asking that question. So again, like I said, this is a loaded question. I mean, the assumption here is that anytime someone gets attacked, that is something that has to be condemned. What makes you say that? Like, for example, do you as a white person condemn every crime that is done by a white person? No. So yeah, and this is the assumption that was never justified in the interview or the discussion.
The only person to blame for the knifing of Salman Rushdie is the assailant himself.
Not the Iranian regime who put the fatwa on him in the first place.
Well, unless you can demonstrate that they were specifically colluding or they sent an agent.
They said he was to blame.
He was in communication with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard.
That's their opinion, right? But
he's saying that, yeah, but unless you can demonstrate or prove that the fact that this fatwa was issued and this stabbing happened are causative, that fatwa caused this, only then can you say that, because otherwise all you have is a bunch of correlations, not causation. This is another logical fallacy. It's known as the correlation meets causation fallacy, or a questionable cause fallacy, where you didn't actually establish a causation, but rather what you established is correlation, and correlation doesn't mean causation. For example, oftentimes what happens is that we think correlations immediately follows up to causation, but that's not the case. Like, for example, every time I go to sleep, every night I go to sleep, right? Does it mean that because it becomes night, that's what causes me to fall asleep? No. I go to sleep because I feel tired, right? Because people also go to sleep during the day. It being night has nothing to do with me falling into sleep. There's a correlation there, but that doesn't mean that that is causing me to go to sleep. Same way, just because this guy has some kind of connection or talk to like the Iranian Revolutionary Guard doesn't necessarily mean that Iranian Revolutionary Guard caused him to stab Rushdie. I mean, if you look at like historical references, Barack Obama also had many meetings with Xi Jinping, right? Does it mean that Barack Obama supports the Chinese authoritarian regime? No. Same thing here. Just because this stabber had communication with the Revolutionary Guard doesn't mean that Revolutionary Guard told him to stab Salman Rushdie. But by the way, that doesn't mean that these people are innocent. The Khomeini regime is horrible. They do a lot of like oppressive things against Sunni Muslims, but the accusations that they're bringing forward is something that needs to be logically proven instead of just assumed.
Well, it's completely horrific. I completely agree with the other two, with Douglas Murray, in that if putting a bounty on someone's head in the first place is an act of violence, whether or not that's followed up by people taking on the challenge, and clearly somebody has, and they are entirely to blame for that.
Okay, so if tomorrow someone watches this discussion, some white nationalist lunatic watches this discussion and looks and sees that Douglas Murray is calling this Muslim quote-unquote fanatic a weasel, and he gets really pumped up by that, and tomorrow he goes and protect our Muslim brothers and sisters, but he goes out and stabs a Muslim, right? Let's say it's a Muslim apologetic, just like Brother Abdullah Al Andalusi is, and says that these guys are weasels, right? And that's what Douglas Murray said. That's why I did it, right? Then will you guys like blame Douglas for this, these white potato chips for this? No, you wouldn't. But when it comes to Muslims, you would definitely blame the Muslim, right? So again, this is like a hypocrisy. And this is why Brother Abdullah is absolutely correct in his assessment, which is that you can't just look at correlations and then come to a conclusion that that's what caused this. That's just dumb.
It's fine to say anything. You quickly run up against a paradox, which is that you say it's fine to somebody to go on TV and call for the death of somebody else for expressing a view. So their freedom of speech is immediately restricting the freedom of speech of others. So you do need some limits on free speech in a free society. Now, of course, we can argue where you draw the line.
I was going to say, Emma, would you say we've gone too far?
In restricting free speech,
Yeah.
I think absolutely we have. I agree with Douglas that I think that short of incitement, those things that are illegal under the law, incitement being things like, for example, putting a fatwa out on somebody, that would count as incitement in my book because it's actively calling for violence against someone.
Okay, then the first thing you should do is put Salman Rushdie in jail. So in case you guys don't know, Salman Rushdie famously wrote a piece in, where was it? So Salman Rushdie famously wrote in his famous article, Fight the Good Fight. It was written like 19 years ago. And he basically justifies and says that why America and other Western countries should invade Iraq, right? And this is what he writes. Fight the good fight. Iraqis have been abused by Saddam for 35 years. The only just cause for a war with Iraq is to liberate its population, argues Salman Rushdie, right? So let's keep reading. But as I listen to Iraqi voices describing the number of atrocities of the Saddam years, then I am bound to say that if, as now, seems possible, the US and UN do agree on a new Iraq resolution, and if inspectors do return, and as is probable, Saddam gets up to his old obstructionist tricks again, or if Iraq refuses to accept the new UN resolution, then the rest of the world must stop sitting on its hand and join the Americans and British in ridding the world of this vile despot and his cohorts. Now, miss, is this inciting violence against the leader of Iraq? Yes. So by your same logic, Salman Rushdie should be in jail. Salman Rushdie should be punished, because if you guys didn't know, the war in Iraq was illegal. It was an illegal war. So basically, if you use the same logic that if someone incites violence upon someone else by speaking against them, then by the same logic, Salman Rushdie should be in jail because he's advocating that that a foreign national, a foreign leader, should be killed. His followers should be killed against an illegal war. He's literally advocating for an illegal war, which is way more terrifying than some fatwa on some idiot writer. Okay, this is actually way more terrifying. There's a study that was done by the Netherlands. It says the following: Iraq invasion violating international law, Dutch inquiry finds. Investigation into Netherlands supports for 2003 war finds military action was not justified under UN resolution. It says the following: the invasion of Iraq in 2003 was a violation of international law. An independent inquiry in the Netherlands has found. In the damning series of findings on the decision of the Dutch government to support Tony Blair and George Bush in the strategy of regime change in Iraq, the inquiry found the action had no basis in international law. The 551-page report published today and chaired by former Dutch Supreme Court Judge Wilbur Davids said UN resolution in the 1990s prior to the outbreak of war gave no authority to the invasion. So yeah, it was an illegal war. It was an illegal war. So basically Salman Rushdie did the same thing that Khomeini did. Okay. For example, this is what it says in Scientific American. This is the following: various non-profit watchdog groups try to keep count of children killed by US and allied forces by tracking media, government and non-governmental organization NGO reports. According to Iraq body count, between 2003 and 2011, US coalition forces killed at least 1,201 children in Iraq alone. So yeah, when Salman Rushdie is like saying that, oh, you know, American government should go out there and like kill children, obviously he didn't say that, but that's what logically implies, because you know he knows that there are casualties of war. So he's saying that, oh, you know, the American government should go out there and kill children. That's completely fine, but you know, if the Khomeini regime says that, you know, one like writer should be killed, that's wrong. But you know, when Rushdie says that thousands of children should be killed, that's completely fine. Khomeini told people to violate the law. Salman Rushdie also told people to violate the law. So why is it that you guys think that what Khomeini did was bad, but what Salman Rushdie did is completely fine. Why is that? So yeah, if you guys want to go by that logic, then please, by all means, arrest Salman Rushdie, and then we can talk.
We have in this country a teacher who is still in hiding, the teacher from Batley Grammar School, because he showed a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad to his class. He's still in hiding with his young family. That is in this country now. I think that what we have done as a result of everything that happened with Salman Rushdie in the intervening 33 years, I think that we have internalized this attitude of censorship, so that now if somebody wanted to write a book like Salman Rushdie's book, no publisher would touch them, because they would know what the implications would be for that person, because we've internalized Sharia law on this. We've internalized in many ways, we've internalized the censorship of radical ideological groups.
I wonder, like, do they do this like kind of like Islamophobes like live in this like fantasy land where they think that Islam can never be criticized? Like, all you guys do is like whine about Islam. Like, that's all I see. As a Muslim, that's all I see. Literally all I see is you like whining about Islam. Oh, why is it, this Muslim is doing that, or this, or Islam is oppressive, that's or that. Like, that's all I see. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? All you guys do is whine about Islam. That's it. So I find it really fascinating that she thinks that somehow, there's no like, people are afraid to like, criticize Islam or whatever. So stupid. Oh my god. Just watch, like, I don't know, watch any Islamophobe YouTube channel, right? Just watch them. Like, there are people who are out there like mocking the Prophet to the point where they have made cartoons, like stupid cartoons. Can you imagine making stupid cartoons about someone who lived 1400 years ago? Like, that's how stupid these people are. And they're saying like, oh, if we do that, we're getting prosecuted. Shut the hell up.
I don't think you can compare a illiberal regime such as the one in Iran to the one here.
That's not what I was doing. But.
No, of course, but you can't really compare the types of restriction on free speech. We have some restrictions laid down in law. They have a huge number of restrictions enforced by their government and ruling groups. The way that free speech gets restricted here is more by a process of consensus and debate, like the debate we're having here, on where lines should be drawn. It's often done with individuals. You can pretty much say anything you like if you find the right audience for it.
Yeah, basically she gets like triggered because she's like comparing what's happening with like Khomeini and like what's happening, what happens in UK. So basically her contention is that, they don't compare these savages with us, like civilized liberals, right? So because they don't have rule of law over there. they don't like they don't like debate and discuss. So stupid. They're saying that because we make our policy based on this debate and discussion, right? No, you guys don't. Like, when it comes to things that threatens your government, there will be no debate and discussion, okay? For example, one good example would be, look at what happened with like COVID restrictions, right? When it comes to COVID restriction, was there debate and discussion? Did people question this topic? And what happened to those people? They were labeled as like conspiracy theories, they were deplatformed, they were cancelled. Even scientists who said that, the vaccines it has problematic elements, or like and all these other kind of things, and criticizes the government policies, many times they are shut down, and sometimes YouTube doesn't even let people express their opinion on this. Their video is taken down, anything that is related to COVID, because supposedly they're spreading misinformation. And so, because if this idea spreads that people don't have to take vaccine, that's a dangerous idea, and they can't allow that, which is why they shut it down. They arrest these people, they cancel these people, right? If they don't cancel it, they force the private organizations to cancel it, right? This is how it works. So this idea that all these policies are based on the consensus. No, and even if that's the case, that it is based on consensus, it is based on the consensus of your group, not based on the consensus of the other group. Like, for example, when you invaded Iraq, did you take the opinion of the Iraqi people? No. Like, when you invaded Afghanistan, did you take the opinion of like Afghani people? No. When you insult like the Prophet, do you take the opinion of Muslims into the equation? No, you don't. when you allow laws that insult our religion, do you consult us? No, you don't. Do you take our vote on it? No, you don't. So what are you talking about? Like, that every decision that is made is somehow made based on like this kind of like quote unquote democratic process. No, it's not. So yeah, this is absolutely wrong and false. But regardless, I think Brother Abdullah did a very good job. He had a lot of patience. I would have like lost it. But regardless, yeah, I think Brother Abdullah did a very good job. Now, I just want to give some advice to some of the Muslim brothers that I see commenting on this, saying that, oh, Muslims should just say that they're, yeah, I condemn it, and blah, 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 right? What you don't understand is that, yes, of course, we condemn the Khomeini regime under Islamic grounds, right? Because in Islam, it's not allowed for anyone to break or violate the law, right? However, you also need to understand when an Islamophobe or like anti-Islam polemics, when they ask this type of question, they're basically making an argument, okay? They're putting premises in their questions. So when they ask these questions, the best response is to not answer that question or call out the logical fallacy in their question or like the logical error in their question or in their argument, right? So the best answer is to not answer it or simply to call out the loaded question. Now, to be fair, like I'm not saying everyone in that panel is like stupid or anything, but the way it is clear that these people haven't really understand like their consequences or like they haven't thought this through, right? Like they're not seeing the inconsistencies of their position. However, not Douglas Murray. Douglas Murray is comeback. Okay, he understands that this is a bad argument. He knows this, and he's gonna do it anyway because he needs to please his audience because he's a potato chip, right? But the rest of them, my advice to them, look, just think deeply about what you're saying and the positions that you have, and you'll understand why the Islamic position is better. And I highly encourage you guys to learn about Islam and what our religion actually teaches and why your position is faulty, right? And be open-minded. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like the video, like, share, subscribe. And if you want to support me, then become a member or a Patreon. And yeah, with this, I'm going to end this video. Thank you guys for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.